15 accountants failed, but a delivery girl revealed a hidden truth that changed everything. Jenna's hands tingled as she tightened her grip on the handlebars of her rusted bicycle. The crisp autumn air sliced through her as she pedaled past the familiar sight of Maplewood, a town soaked in community yet wrapped in secrets. Emerging from the alleys, she witnessed busy professionals hastily entering coffee shops, their lives a blur. "You're destined for more," her mother's words echoed insistently in her mind, overshadowing the weight of their medical bills that accumulated like fallen leaves, each promising a harsher winter. But for now, breakfast awaited delivery, and each tip was survival on this particular morning. As she slowed outside of the upscale coffee shop, the hushed voices of 2 lawyers snagged her attention. 15 accountants, one said, his eyes darting nervously, all gone overnight after that audit. "It's bigger than we thought." Jenna's heart raced, a flood of memories swelling within a family legacy marked by tales of financial injustice, of rats scuttling from sinking ships. Anger mixed with trepidation spiraled inside her. What if there was more? Each delivery, hers was a life on the edge, balancing pursuit and obligation. The world of academia loomed ahead like a beckoning star, yet the earth beneath her felt tethered to an unforgiving reality. Could she risk everything? With firmer resolve, Jenna accepted a shift at a local diner to increase her income, hoping to hear more buried stories amid the clatter of plates and murmured conversations. Patients, nervous applicants, and disgruntled employees crossed paths in that kitchen, their dissatisfaction revealing the darker underbelly of Claremont accountants. An unease crept into her chest. Every tip earned carried with it a sense of danger. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The urgency heightened. Her heart crashed against her ribcage as she considered the moral crossroad. Should she be a guardian of the truth, risking her job, her fragile hold on finances? It frayed every nerve. The dizziness of uncertainty encircled her mind. Would a single revelation save thousands or shatter her bond with her mother's dreams? Fueled by whispers of unethical practices, she felt like a lone warrior stepping into a battlefield. One evening, in the dim light of the diner's storage room, she stumbled upon a box filled with dusty documents. The air was thick with history and betrayal. Her fingers trembled as she leafed through potential evidence of the alleged fraud. Panic coursed through her veins. What if she was digging too deep? The walls felt closer, her breath short and ragged, as doubt slipped past her resolve, teasing her with the possibility of failure. But her fear only intensified her determination. As she gathered her friends, asking for camaraderie over coffee, she felt a pulse of energy weave among them, a solidarity forged from shared struggles. Yet confrontation was on the horizon, and every tick of the clock deepened her anxieties, especially as the door creaked open during their gathering. Shadows spilled inside, revealing a figure cloaked in authority. Jenna froze, heartbeat echoing in her ears. A friend or an enemy? This moment could unravel everything she'd fought for. The figure stepped into the diner, the bright lights casting a sharp contrast to the dim mood that surrounded Jenna and her friends. Clad in a tailored suit, the intruder didn't resemble the kind of person who frequented the diner for cheap coffee and greasy burgers. She narrowed her eyes, scanning their lunch table, skimming over the pile of documents Jenna had left carefully hidden beneath a jacket. "Is this your table?" the man asked, his voice low and cutting, yet carrying an authority that demanded attention. Jenna's pulse quickened. Was he here to intimidate her into silence? To bully her friends into submission? The question outlined her reality with alarming clarity. She'd been weaving dangerously close to a truth worth exposing, but at what cost? She met the stranger's gaze, defiance igniting within her. "What do you want?" she managed to say, her tone steadier than she felt. "Just looking for a friend," he replied, casually appraising the group as if he were assessing livestock rather than an impromptu gathering of allies. "I hear there's quite the conversation brewing in this establishment. The kind that could draw attention." "The wrong kind." Her friends squirmed, the tension rising. This wasn't just a harmless encounter. It was a threat. As the man leaned against the wall, Jenna barely registered the chair scraping against the tiles as her friends shifted uneasily. She felt exposed but remained resolute. "Whatever you think you've heard, we're just here for a coffee," Jenna said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Is that so?" A knowing smirk crept onto his face. "Let us not play games. You're obviously the one looking to dig deeper, an amateur sleuth, a little delivery girl seeking justice. But what you're trading for this moment? I wonder if you're ready for the price." The challenge in his words soaked through her, a damp chill settling into her resolve. Could she afford a confrontation with someone embedded within the very corruption she sought to unveil? Jenna's mind raced, weighing her next move. "Price," she echoed, heart racing, both intrigued and threatened. If he thought she could be easily intimidated, he didn't know her. Her instincts screamed at her to leave, yet the hunger for truth anchored her to the spot. "Every dream has a cost, Jenna," he said, his tone sharp as an indictment, "especially the one that demands vengeance." The relentless hustle of the diner faded into the background, and her internal dialogue pulsed louder than ever. The desire for justice battled with the urge to flee. What did he know about her that she didn't? "Why should I care about your threats?" she dared to say, emboldened by a steely determination ignited from within. Those words teetered on the edge of defiance and recklessness, but the truth demanded affirmation. "Perhaps because all it takes is one audit, one phone call, and this whole little dream of yours crumbles," he replied, ghosting a finger over his collar. "You could expose them, but who will you protect? Yourself, your mother, or your friends?" Each word landed hard, echoing Jenna's lingering doubts. She had gathered her friends for support, but this escalation was the test of her newfound courage. Could she shield those she cared about while navigating this treacherous terrain? Deciding on the next course of action began assembling itself in her thoughts. But with every moment, the backdoor to freedom struggled against the tightening grip of impending confrontation. The time had come to face the shadows, Jenna realized, the battle ahead pushing her deeper into the depths of her own strength. What lay ahead remained uncertain, but she could almost feel the weight of change resting heavily in her hands. "Tell me," she said, inching closer, her voice steadier. "What's your hidden agenda here?" The man's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes, the challenge of the unknown looming larger than before. An uncharted game unfolded, and Jenna found herself poised at the precipice, and that moment, she understood the real battle brewing, both to unveil the truth and to define what lengths she was willing to go to protect her own. Would she sacrifice her safety for justice? Or could there be another way? With volatility in the air, the confrontation quietly simmered, waiting for the igniting spark that would reveal her true potential. The next move would be pivotal. The stakes had never been higher. Jenna's heart thudded in her chest, each beat matching the tense silence that enveloped the diner. The stranger's penetrating gaze made her pulse race with both fear and ambition. She was at the edge of something monumental, a precipice where she could either step back into safety or leap forward into uncertainty. "Hidden agenda?" The words rolled off her tongue, laden with curiosity and defiance. "You seem to know a lot about me." His smile faded slightly, replaced by a more serious expression. "Knowledge is power, Jenna. But understanding how to wield that power is wisdom." Jenna clenched her fists under the table, forcing herself to remain composed. She had spent nights poring over documents, connecting the dots, forming a picture that sought to expose the corruption that ran deep within her town. What made her nervous was how the stakes had escalated so suddenly. She didn't know if the risk was worth the truth anymore. "What's so valuable about exposing what's dirty?" the man questioned, measuring the weight of her ambition against the consequences she'd face. "What will it cost you, really?" The uneasiness of her friends around her served as a grim reminder of the potential fallout. She couldn't shake off the question, what if this obsession with unveiling the truth became a spiral that trapped her or them? Still, she couldn't shake the gnawing conviction that their lives hung in a delicate balance, and she was their anchor or possibly their storm. "I've seen good people suffer because of it," she replied, her voice strong against the storm of doubt swirling inside. "I want to change that." "Is it change you're after, or revenge?" He leaned closer, challenging her to confront the true motive behind her actions. This journey for truth can warp into something much darker, and once you cross that line, there's no going back. The word struck her like a cold slap. They nudged the corners of her conscience. Was she driven by a desire to set things right? Or was she allowing anger and hurt to fuel her quest? Jenna had spent countless hours contemplating the nuances of morality. Was her mission pure? Or was it a facade for something deeply personal? She thought of her mother, weighed down by burdens she didn't deserve, and the friends who had rallied around her, proving their loyalty. Each face floated in her mind like an anchor. Could she bear responsibility for pulling them into her conflict? Introspection pressed down on her, challenging her notions of heroism versus recklessness. I'm not afraid of facing consequences, Jenna asserted, her voice firm even as uncertainty tangled within her. I will not be silenced, nor let fear determine my future. I can handle the truth even if it leaves scars. The man raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Then I wish you luck. But remember, not all truths bring justice. Some simply destroy. He studied her intently, gauging her resolve. However, if you really want to see this through, you may need allies, strategic ones. Strategic allies? She echoed, curiosity peeking amidst trepidation. Was this a mere taunt? Or could he genuinely be offering insight on how to navigate this precarious path? He brushed a hand through his slick hair, his demeanor shifting. You'll need to build a network, choose your battles wisely, and not shy away from the shadows. The people you trust may not always be your friends. Sometimes they are merely tools in an elaborate game. Jenna stared, contemplating his words. Could that lead her closer to the truth or further into the dark abyss of manipulation? The caution he exuded only fueled a flicker of determination within her. She was neither a pawn nor a victim. She was still a player in her own story. Why are you helping me? She asked, her curiosity wrapping around suspicion. What is your role in all this? Let's just say I have my reasons, he replied cryptically. And so do you. Unveil those reasons, Jenna, and you'll find your strength. From there, the real power lies in your choices. The weight of his words settled heavily. Jenna could feel the threads of her resolve weaving more tightly around the truth. But the path ahead remained fraught with peril. The stakes felt higher, the choices more dire. Yet within the fear lay a burgeoning sense of purpose. This was a moment she had been waiting for, a catalyst for her evolution. With transformation hanging tantalizingly in the air, Jenna squared her shoulders. She would decipher her own motives, leverage every truth, and exploit every connection she needed to emerge stronger, wiser, and unyielding. But that journey began with one pivotal decision. Tell me, then she breathed, how do I begin? As the stranger leaned back, the corners of his lips curled into an enigmatic smile, shadows of possibility threading between them. The game had shifted, and Jenna was all too aware of the next step. She had to take one that would lead her deeper into dangerous waters, but perhaps finally grant her the strength to rise above them. Now let us talk strategy, he said, his voice a calming whisper amid the chaos. And with that, Jenna felt the undertow of the unknown pull her, ready to discover not just the truth about the world around her, but the truth within herself. As the man shared his strategies, Jenna felt fire ignite within her. Each word he spoke resonated, charging her with a sense of agency she had previously lacked. She leaned forward, hanging on every syllable, her mind racing through the possibilities of forming a network and using it as a platform for change. First, you need to identify who can help you, he instructed, his tone shifting from conspiratorial to instructive. Look for those who are dissatisfied with the status quo. You'll find allies amongst the disillusioned. The notion thrilled Jenna, even as threads of anxiety twisted in her stomach. Finding allies felt exhilarating yet terrifying, a radical shift from her solitude of fighting against the town's corruption. As she envisioned reaching out to people, she felt the weight of their potential burdens pressing against her own purpose. It was no longer just about her. She had the potential to rally support, to network beyond the confines of her solitary crusade. What if I misjudged them? Jenna asked, her voice barely a whisper despite the crowd noise surrounding them. What if someone I think I can trust betrays me? Trust is an experiment, Jenna. Some will rise to the occasion, while others will fail you, he replied, his eyes locking onto hers. You can't afford to let fear of betrayal paralyze you. Your intent must be cleanliness of purpose. Let that be your guide. She took a deep breath, trying to absorb the gravity of his words. The realization hit harder than expected. This was not merely about unearthing corruption. It was now about leadership, navigating fragile relationships born from struggle and pain. Those same relationships could either fortify her endeavors or become a minefield of deceit. What's next? Jenna queried, her resolve tightening around her as if pulling on a safety harness before a plunge. Gather information. Know your enemy, he replied, pinning her with a look that suggested their conversation was about more than just intelligence. Study the weaknesses of those in power. Find what they fear. Use that knowledge to gain an upper hand. As he spoke, Jenna felt an undercurrent of dread. The very thought of infiltrating the system, even in the name of justice, was wrought with ethical dilemmas. Were the tactics he recommended morally sound? The deeper she delved, the more muddled her intentions seemed. And yet she sensed that this complexity was part of her evolution, her initiation into the fray. Every choice would reveal another layer of her character. What about the risk for my friends? Jenna asked, a genuine concern lacing her tone. Their loyalty felt like a double-edged sword. She didn't want to put them in harm's way, yet she knew they would stand by her regardless. If you shield them from the truth, you create vulnerabilities, he countered. Arm them with knowledge but assess their capacity for involvement. Some will thrive among danger, while others may falter. Choose wisely. His clarity felt like a chisel carving anew in the block of her understanding. Jenna began reevaluating each friend's strengths and vulnerabilities, digging deeper into her trusted circle. Who among them was ready to face the storm she was brewing? A sense of responsibility washed over her, a mixture of dread and ambition, as she recognized the need for not just allies but a team dynamic that could withstand pressure. What are you really asking me to do? Jenna countered, eyes narrowing. Am I to become a soldier in this war of truths? He threw back his head and laughed, a sharp, clear sound that broke the tension in the air. No, Jenna. You must become a strategist. Soldiers fall, but strategists dictate the battlefield. The weight of his words cemented the reality of her path. In that moment, Jenna understood what the stranger wanted from her. It was not merely an invitation into a world of tactical operations. It was the chance to assert herself as an architect of change. She felt invigorated, a conviction growing fuller with each beat of her heart. I'll do it, she said, firm and determined, the resolve weaving through her like a thread of courage. I'll become the strategist I need to be. As the conversation deepened, the air grew dense with a sense of destiny, yet the shadows around them whispered of dangers to come. With every decision she stood poised to make, a dark undercurrent ebbed away, hinting at complications lurking in the folds of her strategy. Things are not what they seem, Jenna. Prepare to confront the veil, the man leaned in, his voice steady yet ominous. What truths awaited her beyond this pivotal threshold? And what consequences lay in the choices she was about to make? As adrenaline mingled with anticipation, Jenna knew she was entering a realm that could shatter her understanding of right and wrong. With her heart pounding and mind racing, she realized the depth of her journey was only beginning. Each step forward would redefine her, not just in the quest to unveil the truth, but in understanding the complexities of her own role in it all. The game was in motion, and she was prepared to play. Yet, beneath the surface of her blossoming confidence, a question nagged loudly: was she ready for the unveiling of the truths hidden within herself? Jenna stepped away from the stranger, the pulse of determination swirling within her like a tempest. She could feel the gravity of her decision shift. This wasn't merely an endeavor. It was the beginning of her transformation into someone far more complex than the girl who had initially set out to uncover corruption in her town. Now she was to be a strategist, a creator of her own fate, and the stakes felt higher than she had ever imagined. With mind racing, Jenna found a quieter corner outside. The cool evening air brushed against her skin, grounding her in reality. She needed to define her next steps. It began with understanding her landscape. Every betrayal, every hidden agenda became a vital piece of a grand puzzle. The thought invigorated her. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her contacts. A wave of hesitance washed over her as she considered who could truly support her mission. Could she trust her childhood friends, still blissfully unaware of the dark truths swirling just below their feet? Or should she reach out to those she barely knew, those fraught with dissatisfaction, whose frustrations echoed her own? The gravity of this decision struck hard. Her fingers hovered over the screen, reflecting her uncertainty. But then a resolute thought emerged. Each connection was potential leverage, a doorway to greater intelligence, and thus greater strength. She began typing out messages to two acquaintances: Eli, a tech-savvy analyst from her college, and Miranda, a fiery activist who had crossed her path during protests. They were driven and, above all, restless in their current lives. They craved change just like Jenna did. "Hey Eli, I need your insights on something pressing. Can we meet?" The message sent, she felt a tinge of relief. Next, she reached out to Miranda. "Hi Miranda. I know we've only spoken a few times, but I could really use your passion and perspective on a project that needs a voice. Want to grab coffee?" What if they agreed? What if they didn't? The barrage of what-ifs began to circle her mind like frenzied crows. She took a deep breath, summoning the courage that had sparked inside her. She wouldn't let fear dictate the evolution she was undertaking. These connections felt pivotal to her next move, even if she wasn't certain of where they would lead. Days passed, each filled with ebbing anticipation that gnawed at the corner of her thoughts. Eli responded first, his reply pragmatic: "Sure. I'll bring my laptop." Miranda's reply came in rapid-fire, enthusiastic, and filled with exclamation points. Murdering her apprehension, she quickly set up meetings for the following week, forming a mental image of their discussions like a mosaic, each piece representing a potential breakthrough. That week came with anxious nights, tossed between dreams of unveiling truths and fears of failure. Yet it was during the hazy twilight of insomnia that clarity struck her. To distrust would be paralyzing, but she needed to wield her concerns as tools instead. Each meeting was an ally and a chance to forge a strategy that could dismantle the perverse order in her chaotic town. When the day of the meetups arrived, she stood in front of the cafe mirror, battling insecurities with each passing second. Who was she really? A girl on an unforeseen crusade? Or a pawn in someone else's game? Her reflection glared back. She straightened her shoulders, swallowed her doubts, and stepped into the warmth of the cafe, ready to influence and be influenced. Eli was already seated, his laptop open with streams of data cascading down the screen as he scrolled. Miranda arrived moments later, emitting a vibrant aura of confidence that swept her fears aside. "All right," Jenna said, her voice laced with newfound authority. "Let us map this out." As they began to share their thoughts and insights, Jenna felt the adrenaline of her transformational moment. Their discussions were electric with strategy, flowing naturally from one idea to another. She discovered her impact, the way her thoughts inspired both Eli and Miranda, their eyes widening with possibilities. But while they gathered strength, there was an unsettling residue at the back of her mind. It was a question she had tried to evade. What if her actions put not just her but those close to her in danger? At that moment, the clash between intention and consequence crystallized into focus. How far was she willing to go? What would she sacrifice to realize her vision? As the three of them began outlining a tactical approach to infiltrate the dark corners of their environment, Jenna felt the weight of her responsibilities growing heavier. It was one thing to act as an individual. It was another to lead. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open, a gust of wind brushing past, bringing with it a chilling reminder. Trust, like the air they breathed, was fragile and fleeting. The time had come for her to navigate and choose her allies wisely. But more critically, Jenna sensed the danger of facing profound choices ahead. What lay ahead threatened to test not merely her strategic intentions but her very essence. Would she emerge a changed strategist? Or would she falter under the weight of a burgeoning reality that demanded more than she was ready to give? Jenna's pulse quickened as ideas soared between the trio, each discussion breathing new life into her initial mission. Sparks of inspiration bounced around the table, igniting the passion that lay dormant within their respective worlds. Yet an elusive thread of doubt tugged at her heart. As she navigated each conversation, Jenna examined not only the tactical elements through which they could dismantle corruption but also the emerging complexity of her connections. Eli's technical prowess shone through when he pulled a series of graphs from his laptop, a visual representation of suspicious financial transactions linked to the town's corrupt officials. Each statistic sent a tremor of urgency rippling through Jenna. "These patterns don't just imply wrongdoing, they scream for investigation," he stated, his eyes glinting with determination. Miranda leaned in, her voice fervent. "We need to amplify these findings. The public deserves to know what is happening. It might be uncomfortable, But we can't shy away from exposing these truths. Each suggestion struck chords deep within Jenna as she wrestled with the implications. The weight of their mission settled on her like an anchor. The excitement bubbled within, yet so did the fear. What if they provoked retaliation? Each question built a nest of anxiety, but also fueled her determination. Were they becoming hunters in a game that was rigged against them? Okay, Jenna interjected, her mind rapidly formulating a strategy. Let us begin by gathering more intel. I know of a few whistleblowers we might reach out to, but if we're uncovering this, we need to be discreet. I also have a list of businesses associated with the shady deals. Her voice grew steadier as she spoke, gaining momentum. We must document everything carefully and organize our evidence before going public. As they discussed angles and methods, Jenna felt an evolution occurring within her. She was not merely a participant. She was stepping into the role of a leader, making tough decisions and navigating the uncertainties that came with them. The thrill electrifying her veins also held an undercurrent of dread. She had always envisioned herself as an agent of change, yet this responsibility felt weightier than any she had ever experienced. Halfway through their meeting, Miranda paused, her brow furrowed. Jenna, are you okay? You seem distracted. Caught off guard, Jenna forced a smile while her mind drifted back to her loved ones. Yeah, just thinking ahead. The lie hung between them. She wanted to tell them about her fears of putting her family at risk, of the shadows that hovered just behind this burgeoning campaign. Miranda's expression softened. Jenna, we're in this together. No one goes through this alone. Whatever decisions we make, they impact us all. But we'll figure it out. The comfort of Miranda's words held her. But Jenna knew that their paths were about to intertwine in ways none of them could foresee. The depth of her resolve was rooted in the clarity of their collective goals. Yet Jenna also felt the heavy realization that sacrifices would come. There was no avoiding it. They finalized their plan to target a marketing campaign aimed at exposing corruption through data visualization. Jenna's phone buzzed with an ominous notification. A text from an unknown number. Make one wrong move and it won't just be you caught in the crossfire. Every ounce of passion and purpose within her clashed with the sudden realization that they were stepping into a deadly game. The stakes were far higher than she'd anticipated. Fear clawed at her throat even as a swell of defiance surged within. She turned to Eli and Miranda, determination hardening in her features. If they want to play dirty, then we'll show them what clean looks like. We're not backing down. As they prepared to launch their initiative from the cafe into the wider world, Jenna understood that the price of truth would justify the strings of her reality fraying at the edges. Would she risk everything for the greater good? And who would she become when all was said and done? Jenna's heart thundered. Whatever lay ahead promised not just consequences but revelations about herself she had yet to discover. Before she could voice her thoughts, her phone buzzed again, this time with an unexpected contact. The name sent chills down her spine. Someone from her past. A figure she never thought would reach out again. Meet me. I have information you need. In that moment, Jenna understood the real game was about to begin. Jenna's heart raced as she stared at the screen, the name glaring back at her with an intensity that felt surreal. The figure from her past, Charlie, had been part of a tempestuous chapter in her life, a liaison fraught with half-truths and unkept promises. As memories surfaced, they were tinged with both nostalgia and regret. But now that same name was tied to an opportunity she could neither ignore nor fully trust. Is everything okay? Eli's voice broke her reverie, pulling her back into the room filled with the scent of coffee and unease. Yeah, just someone I used to know, she replied, forcing herself to maintain composure. I think they might have information on the financials we're dealing with. Miranda tilted her head, suspicion creeping into her expression. Do you think they can be trusted? The question gnawed at Jenna. Trust had always been a delicate matter for her, especially in her line of work. I don't know, she admitted, running a hand through her hair. But this could be the thread we need to pull at. I need to meet with them. Both Eli and Miranda exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. Okay, but we do this on our terms, Eli said, his tone firm. If this contact knows something, we won't let them dictate the conversation. We need to be prepared. Jenna nodded, her pulse settling into a rhythm of clarity. This was not merely about information. It was about asserting her place in the chaos. The next few hours were a whirlwind of planning and strategizing. They discuss questions to pose, evidence to share, and contingencies if things took an undesirable turn. Jenna felt a surge of adrenaline as she positioned herself not just as the seeker of truth, but as a force to be reckoned with. That evening, she arrived at the small diner where Charlie had suggested they meet. The place was dimly lit, the air thick with comfort food in inconspicuous corners. Jenna's pulse quickened not solely from the remnant emotions of their past, but from the nagging sense of danger that lingered in the air. Settling into a booth, she surveyed the patrons with keen eyes, her instincts finely tuned. A sense of vulnerability washed over her as she stared at the empty seat across from her, like it was a metaphor for what lay ahead. She was no longer the frightened girl that left that part of her life behind. Now there was a mission, a responsibility that altered everything she had known up until now. "Jenna?" A voice pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up to see Charlie standing there, a familiar yet foreign smile on his face. "Charlie," she replied, trying to read his intentions as he slid into the booth across from her. "It's been a while." "Didn't he think you'd come?" he said, his tone light but with an undercurrent that made her wary. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't think you had something valuable to say," Jenna shot back, her voice steelier than she felt. He studied her, the change in her demeanor obvious. "You've grown up, Jenna. Causing quite a stir with your little endeavor, I hear." That didn't warrant a response. Jenna leaned in focused. "I'm not here for pleasantries. What do you know about the transactions tied to the town officials?" "I need accurate information." Charlie's expression shifted faintly, the mask slipping just a fraction. "It's not that simple. There are layers to this that even I can't untangle without being cautious." "Caution has no place in this game," she countered, the fire igniting within her. He looked surprised, perhaps impressed. "Still the same fierce spirit, huh? Alright, I can help. But first you need to know you're stepping into deep waters, Jenna. These people," he leaned closer, lowering his voice, "they don't play nice." As the conversation unfolded, pieces of a bigger puzzle began to take shape before her. Yet, with every revelation came a stark warning that whispered of potential danger, the kind that could lead her to slip down the dark path of retribution. She wrestled with the urge to expose the corruption for the sake of the community, while grappling with the lurking specter of harm that could befall those she loved. "Let me show you something," Charlie said suddenly, pulling out his phone. Her heart drummed in her chest, anticipation and anxiety intertwining. Jenna tried to focus on the information, still grappling with her moral compass as the stakes grew higher. Explicit diagrams and accounts materialized, each one tinged with implications that clawed at her resolve. "If you go ahead with this, Jenna, everything changes." She felt the weight of his words settle like lead in her stomach. What had she gotten herself into? The moral high ground was becoming slippery as shadows loomed closer. "Let us go," Jenna said, determination igniting within her once more. "I'm not turning back now." As she stood to leave, Charlie grabbed her wrist. "Just remember, some truths are more dangerous than others." With a swift yank, she pulled free, driven by the urgency of the moment but haunted by the specter of consequences yet to unfold. The real game was just beginning, and Jenna couldn't help but question if she was prepared for what surface truths could reveal about herself. The stakes were no longer a distant threat. They were here, creeping into her space, forcing her to confront her very identity in the pursuit of justice. Would the truth empower her, or would it consume everything she held dear? As they stepped outside into the chill of the night, Jenna felt a shift deep within her, the dawning of resolve that this journey would strip away the layers of who she thought she was and mold her into something more fierce, more formidable. But at what cost? The streetlights flickered as Jenna and Charlie emerged into the night, casting long shadows that seemed to trail behind them like specters of her past. The air was sharp with uncertainty, and the weight of every unresolved moment hung heavy on her shoulders. As they walked in silence, Jenna's thoughts turned inward, grappling with the implications of what she had just learned. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, laden with the gravity of her unspoken fears. Charlie glanced sideways at her, his lips pressed together in contemplation. "There are a few people you need to talk to, but I can't be involved directly. They'll see me coming." That stung more than she expected. Did he think she needed him to navigate this? It was time she learned to carve her own path. "Can you just point me in the right direction?" she pressed, her determination revving up. I can handle it. Okay, he relented, his brow creasing slightly. I know someone who's been keeping an eye on the officials. It's risky, but they have the information you need. Their name is Sam. They might be able to help you. With a nod, Jenna made a mental note, but the gnawing worry didn't abate. Sam was a new ally, and the narrative they were wading into was ominous. A household name known for its ties to the local corruption, could they be trusted? Why involve yourself at all? She blurted out, suddenly aware of her frustration bubbling to the surface. You left this behind. Why come back to help me? Charlie hesitated, then took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for a confession. Because there might be people in danger, and I know how it feels to ignore it. I see you, Jenna. I can't just stand by and let things spiral. An unexpected pang of understanding settled in her chest, the depth of his remorse resonating with her own desire to effect change. Still, she had no intention of relying on him, even if their histories were intertwined and tangled. The rest of the night became a blur of decisions and plans, her mind racing like a smartphone processing a deluge of information. They agreed to meet in a week, crucial time for Jenna to gather her strength and sharpen her abilities in ways she never truly tapped into before. Jenna returned home, her pulse steadying as she shifted into a proactive mindset. There were pieces like puzzle fragments strewn across her life, and it was time she made sense of them. She grabbed a notebook and settled at the kitchen table, surrounding herself with papers, her laptop, and a slew of colored pens. Mapping out what she had learned from Charlie, she sketched out connections, the transactions, names, dates. But more importantly, she contemplated her own trajectory. This wasn't merely about gathering intel. It was a rite of passage, calling upon every ounce of will she possessed. As the hours crept into dawn, she felt her resolve hardening. Jenna realized that she had a knack for this, organizing chaos into a coherent picture. There was power in creating connections, narratives, and actionable strategies. There was danger, yes, but there was also clarity in conflating fear with determination. But lurking beneath the surface, she sensed a different potential within herself, the courage to confront not just external adversaries but the internal doubts that had long limited her. She thought back to a time when she felt stifled, a quiet girl who hesitated to speak up. Here, amidst her scattered notes, she found the voice that had always been there, waiting to be unleashed. This new identity was emerging, one that thrived on challenges and resolved to confront the darkness, to shine a light on the unseemly truths that others wished to bury. Yet with this realization, Jenna felt the chill of apprehension course through her veins. What if the more she discovered, the more she jeopardized her own safety? And what would become of her journey once it was clear to everyone what she was undertaking? Determined to find out, she arranged her thoughts into a strategic outline. A direct meeting with Sam, a plan to present herself credibly, and backup contingencies with Eli and Miranda just in case things went awry. But just as resolution settled in, a sudden ping from her phone jolted her out of her thoughts, a message from Charlie that read, "They know you're looking into things. Be careful, Jenna." The warning pulsed through her like wildfire, igniting her instincts. She hadn't even begun to scratch the surface, and already the stakes were climbing higher. As she stared into the blurred horizon outside her window, Jenna felt a rush of adrenaline mingle with fear, a potent mix that only made her more resolute. The time had come to face not just the corruption in her community, but the rigidity within herself that had kept her from fully embracing her potential. Tomorrow would be the crucible, and she was determined to step into its flames. What revelations would await her, and what truths might she need to confront that were even darker than the ones Charlie had hinted at? The morning sun pierced through Jenna's bedroom window, illuminating the remnants of her chaotic night. She blinked against the brightness, her mind replaying Charlie's warning like an ominous refrain. "They know you're looking into things." A flicker of paranoia ignited in her stomach, but she quickly quelled it with the determination that had surged overnight. She had momentum now, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. Dressed and poised, Jenna downed a cup of coffee that did little to calm the whirlpool of thoughts in her mind. 3 tasks loomed ahead. Contact Sam, refine her strategy, and assess her support network. She needed clarity and conviction, a sense of purpose resonating deeply within her. Mind racing, she scrolled through her contacts until she found the number Charlie had shared. Just like that, the safety of anonymity was shattered. She was entering a deadly game where everyone had something to lose. But wasn't he at the risk of revelation? With a deep breath she tapped the screen. "Hi, is this Sam?" Jenna swallowed hard, forcing the tremor out of her voice as the call connected. "I was told you might have information regarding the recent city transactions. I need to know if you can meet." Silence lingered and anxiety strummed at her nerves, but Sam's response crackled through the line, steady and knowledgeable. They agreed to meet at a low-key cafe that removed surveillance from the equation. Both sides needed protection. The moment Jenna hung up, her heart raced anew, spurring her into action with urgency. She rifled through her notes, studying the names and dates again. With each repetition, they transformed from mere data to anchors that tethered her resolve. At that moment she understood. Knowledge alone could shatter chains. But it would take more than knowledge. It required strategy, wit, and perhaps alliances. Arriving at the cafe, she took a moment to center herself. The aroma of brewed coffee mingled with the soft ambience of low chatter, a strange juxtaposition to the storm inside her. She spotted Sam across the room, an unassuming figure buried beneath a brown hoodie, anonymity their armor. "Jenna." Sam greeted her with a measured nod, eyes scanning the surroundings before settling on her. "I recognized your voice. Let us cut to the chase." Within the throes of this conversation, Jenna felt the tension shift. The stakes elevated as they dove into the intricacies of the corruption plaguing her community. Sam laid out the facts, revealing layers of deception that entwined officials and syndicates, illuminating faces behind disparate names. Each revelation forged a burning determination deeper than any fear. This was more than an investigation, it was a quest for accountability. "Who's your target?" Sam's eyes locked onto hers with palpable intent, firm yet inquiring. "The mayor. He's involved. I need proof." Jenna's voice held weight now. No longer the quiet girl who shied away from confrontation. Sam appraised her, their expression unreadable. "You're aware this could put you at significant risk?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation, a newfound clarity washing over her. "But that risk is the price of clarity. I need to see this through." They sketched a plan, targeting the next council meeting as a pivotal moment for discovery. Jenna's adrenaline surged as she envisioned the interactions, each revealing moment sparking ideas of tactics to employ. And while they discussed details, Jenna couldn't help but sense Sam's hesitation. A question flickered across her mind. Was Sam hiding something? As they wrapped up, Sam leaned closer, the intensity returning. "You need to be cautious. Not everyone will want you poking around." The weight of those words anchored in her chest as realization clawed her insides. The revelation wrapped around her tightly, the imminent confrontation with not only her external adversaries, but also the shadows of her past. After parting ways, Jenna walked back, the path clearer yet fraught with danger. The words echoed louder with each step, her heart pounding with an urgent rhythm. The time had come to face the truth, not just about the city but the dynamics of her own courage. As she neared home, the phone in her pocket buzzed again, another message lighting the screen. "Don't trust anyone fully, not even Sam. They have their own agenda." Just as trepidation threatened to seep in, she clenched her fists. Jenna was carving her path, and with this unveiling of betrayal, she understood that she was both the key to exposing the truth and the one who would confront any shadows lurking within her alliances. Tomorrow would not just be about the meeting, it was about invoking change for herself and her community. Yet, this time the question lingered heavily. What lines was she willing to cross to reveal the truth she sought? The clock was ticking and shadows were gathering. What choices would Jenna make when the moment of truth arrived? Jenna stood in front of the mirror, her reflection revealing a woman transformed. Gone was the timid delivery girl haunted by debts and the fear of failure. In her place was a resolute strategist prepared to expose tyranny hidden beneath a polished facade. Deep breaths steadied her resolve as she donned the professional attire she had meticulously selected for the council meeting, a choice that symbolized her commitment to reclaiming her narrative. As she made her way to the council chamber, her mind flickered back to the moment she had gathered evidence over clandestine meetings, a time when she resided in shadows, merely an observer of discord. That felt like a lifetime ago. Now, armed with intelligence and the resolve of a burgeoning leader, she felt a surge of power propel her forward. This wasn't just about righteousness, it was about positioning herself to create the shift her community desperately needed. Inside the chamber, the atmosphere pulsed with tension and authority. Politicians, oblivious to the pain they inflicted upon ordinary lives, debated on frivolous issues while the real corruption swirled just beneath the surface. Jenna's pulse quickened as a flicker of nerves danced in her belly, but she quickly harnessed that energy, letting it fuel her mission. She was here to illuminate the lies that festered within as the session unfolded. Jenna's heart raced alongside the palpable dissent. With each deceitful argument made by those benefiting from the shady dealings she was there to expose, she saw faces turn intent and momentous. The time for action had arrived. Flipping through her documents, she felt the weight of her calling affirmed with every page turned. She had spent nights constructing the strategy embedded within those notes, and now clarity channeled into powerful resolve. Stepping up to the podium felt like ascending a battleground. Eyes latched onto her, some hostile, others quizzical, but all intrigued. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice resonating with regality, "I stand before you not merely as a concerned resident of our beloved town but as a witness to corruption that claws at our community's heart." The ripples of her declaration cascaded through the room, stirring murmurs. "I possess documents I have painstakingly gathered, detailing transactions that link our officials to unethical practices. This is a call to action. Change must come, and it starts now." Energized by the stunned expression surrounding her, Jenna launched into her presentation, detailing evidence with precision that had taken weeks to compile. As her fellow townspeople leaned in closer, her confidence pierced through any remaining doubt. The numbers, the accounts, each represented lives affected by greed, a narrative she meticulously wove into her revelation. As she spoke, she witnessed disbelief transform into resolve, people recognizing the power of their voices rising alongside her conviction. The moment of truth ignited not only the assembly but her own identity as she gracefully challenged authority, wielding truth like a sword. "We will not tolerate dishonesty any longer." Her heart soared as she heard the crowd begin to echo her sentiments, a cacophony of solidarity growing as her voice swelled above them. Yet, when the mayor rose to retort with defensive bravado, his words felt like a betrayal to those who had placed trust in him. Jenna stood firm, prepared for confrontation. "You approach a reckoning, sir. Your power may have shielded you from accountability, but no longer. The veil over your actions is torn, and the people shall demand justice." With the urgency of justice coursing through her veins, Jenna faced the pall of dismay overwhelming the room as murmurs built into an uproar. Allies emerged as those around her recognized their shared truth. The call for accountability resonated in every corner of the chamber. This moment crystallized the very essence of her growth, a transformation from a scared girl seeking to confront the past to a formidable force advocating for resolution. By the end of the session, as the council paused to deliberate on her demands, Jenna felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over her. She had not just delivered a message, she had ignited a movement rooted in truth that would challenge the status quo and inspire others to seek transparency. Later, as she stepped outside into the gentle evening light, the weight of change rested lightly upon her shoulders. Each struggle, every moment of doubt had sculpted her into someone strong and unwavering. She was no longer just Jenna the delivery girl fighting for her family's survival. She was now Jenna the advocate, the strategist, the torchbearer of truth in Maplewood. This journey was not merely a personal mission, it had transformed into a collective pursuit for justice. "Remember, Jenna," she whispered to herself as she prepared the next phase of her initiative, "you've conquered your demons and stepped into the light. The greatest challenges are what pave the way for profound change." As she walked away, her phone buzzed with a message. Eli and Miranda were waiting to celebrate her success. In that moment, she knew she had achieved more than she thought possible. With confidence newfound and purpose clear, Jenna embraced not just the weight of her community's struggle, but the heights of her own potential. The shadows may linger, but she was ready for whatever lay ahead. Now you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that redefine courage. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep our movement alive. Comment your reactions and theories about Jenna's journey and her brilliant strategy. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and awaken their own strength. Don't wait even one more second to share. This narrative holds power for all.